It's Friday, the last show of the week. First pitch. I'm the Prez. My co-host, an amazing dude, Dave Cokin with us, and Bryan Leonard. My favorite show today, Bryan. I absolutely love these Fridays. Listening to you and Dave talk baseball is such a pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I would actually pay money to listen to Dave talk baseball because the guy knows. He's just amazing. I mean, I'm not blowing any smoke. Dave knows how I feel about his baseball, and just a pleasure to be able to do the show with him every week. And I always learn a lot by doing the show. And I'm sure you do too, Prez. So it works out well for all of us.
You know, Bri, it's funny because the people say the same thing on our YouTube comments. I mean, Dave, everybody just loves listening to you do these shows. You've really made First Pitch so much better. I can't thank you enough, and I love doing this with you, man. You're just a good dude, and the amount of small talk that you do throughout these shows, it fascinates me.
Well, can somebody explain to me how a team can run 77 plays to 39, outgain the opposition almost 2-1, score 7 times, and lose the football game and don't cover? That was Edmonton last night, so I'm still pissed off about that. I mean, they completely dominated Winnipeg. Their wide receivers couldn't catch the ball. They should have won the game, and, well, anyway, I lost it.
It happens, brother. You're 1-1 in Canadian football.
You know, it's football, baseball, basketball. There's going to be games that just frustrate the crap out of you, and you just swallow and move on. But they're fun to talk about. And that's how you alleviate the frustration, is you talk about it a little bit and get it out of your system.
Have you gotten it out of your system, or would you like us?
I had it out of my system 5 minutes after the game. It's like I looked at the stats. I said, well, I made a good pick, and it lost. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah, just be on the right side, and you're going to win more than you lose. You know that. Bryan knows that. Everybody knows that. Listeners out there, thank you guys so much for all the wonderful comments. Thank you for helping me figure out my internet issues. And we had one guy, Dave, a couple of days ago, listen to our show, put a 5 or 6 team parlay together, $100. No, I think it was $50. It paid $1,800. He wanted to know where to send us a tip.
Best Friends is an animal activist organization in Utah. They're phenomenal. They're nationwide, but they're headquartered in Utah. So if you want a tip in my name, it doesn't have to be in my name, just send a small piece to Best Friends, and you'll be doing something good for our friends with fur.
There you go. I'm the Prez, Dave Cokin, Bryan Leonard. Last show of the weekend, just to let everybody know. Marco will be hosting on Monday. It's a long weekend in Canada. I'm with my children. My eldest daughter runs a business. You can check it out at that's Mary, m2designs.ca, m2designs.ca. She started this business on her own. She has rented a booth at one of the festivals in Toronto, and I will be there working it for 12 straight hours. Plus, a proud dad over here. My daughter got accepted to FIT in New York. I'll be driving her there mid-August, but I'll tell you, I mean, you know, most parents overestimate their children. I underestimated mine this time around. FIT took 4 international students, 4 out of thousands of applications, and she was one of them, and it's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable the amount of underestimation I did, because there's no I would have put the over and under at I would have put the odds at like plus 1,000 that she was one of the 4 accepted. So that's my story today. Let's get to it. We're going in rotation order from now on. How exciting is that?
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cincinnati hosting the Cubs tonight. Chicago minus 112 to 116. The over and under in this game is 9. About 72% of the tickets have been written on Chicago already. Look, since Cincinnati has been playing, up until their recent 4-game losing streak, they've been playing pretty good. But they're back to the unders. They went under their last 2 games. We've got Hamels versus Gray tonight. Gray has not pitched well the last 3 games and has really not had an amazing season. Bryan, I'll go to you first. Where are you headed in this game?
First off, congratulations to your daughter. And the only thing I can say is she must have a brilliant mother.
Touche.
Can't argue with that.
I want to talk about, we'll talk about Cole Hamels here in a second, but we're getting to the time of the year where they have a lot of major league trades, and pitchers are on lousy teams. All of a sudden they go to a team that's in contention. It was just amazing last year how well these pitchers did all the rest of the season. So keep that in mind. Cole Hamels was one of them. It looked like his career was coming to an end, and he gets jumped by playing for a contender, and now 2.92 ERA in the season. He's just been terrific the last couple of years. Slightly in here with the Cubs and Hamels. Keep in mind, you always take a look at schedules when these teams play these games. Cincinnati just coming back from a road trip at Milwaukee and the Angels. Chicago's been home for like the last 10, 12 games. So this is a team that's very rested. They get to go to Cincinnati, not a far trip at all. So I think we'll see a pretty good game out of the Cubs here. You talked about Gray, his last 7 starts at 53, actually pretty good. He's had a really nice season. Getting out of New York really helped him, and I saw that would be something that would be a positive for him. Slightly in here with the Cubs, but probably won't be on my card this week.
Dave, I like the under in this game. I think we're going to see good pitching tonight, and Cincinnati, as we've spoken about all year, just keeps playing to that under. 27 and 49 to the under, and it's 9. So that's where I'm going. What are you doing in this game?
Yeah, one of the things I do, it's really the first thing I do when I'm handicapping the day's baseball schedule, is do the starting pitching. And what I'm looking for is a combination of game grades or game scores, which Bryan also uses. And then I'll also look at the comparisons between the ERA and the more advanced metrics like XFIP, Sierra, FIP. And I'm looking for matches. And this game doesn't give me one. It's just the opposite. The game score clearly favors the Cubs as far as Hamels versus Gray are concerned, particularly recent form, which to me is more important than season-long form. It's a blowout as far as that goes. The problem is when we get into the home and road stuff with the advanced metrics, Hamels has a good ERA on the road, but his advanced metrics are not particularly good, especially FIP. Gray has only a fair ERA at home. In fact, it's not that good. But his advanced metrics at home are excellent. In today's world, 3.24, 3.30, those numbers are really good. So it becomes a real tough call for me. I think I'd lean under because more than anything else, Hamels has had really good form recently. If you grade out his last 3 starts on average, that game score is about 65, which is really good. And Gray has those good metrics at home, so I would think that would point to the under. The worry would be the bullpen, particularly for the Reds, with Iglesias has just fallen off the cliff lately. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I think they might have to try and trade him because something isn't right there. Long story short, I'm probably going to pass the game, but if I had to bet something, I'd play the under.
Atlanta on the road playing the lowly New York Mets, losers of 5 in a row. 5 in a row. The New York Mets just cannot get their act together. Yet they're favored, and it's because DeGrom's on the mound. Minus 135. There's a minus 140 at Bookmaker, and the over and under is 7.5. There is an 8 at Heritage. I've told everyone I'm betting the overs in Atlanta, and I'm going to do it again tonight. Dave, I'll go to you first on this game. I get it. Look, these are 2 really good pitchers. Soroka versus DeGrom, both absolutely outstanding seasons. Yet, I'm 7.5 is a low number for this Atlanta team. They just keep hitting the ball. They just lost to the Cubs 9-7. God, they put up a 13 in the last few games and a 12. That's where I'm headed.
Well, they're not putting those numbers up against DeGrom, who's an elite pitcher, and he's pitching great ball. And that explains the market here, which opened around 110, and it's up in the 135, as you mentioned, 140 range. Here's the problem. The Mets are unbelievably bad right now. I mean, these losses have been hideous. And I think yesterday's loss might have been the worst. First time all year they've trailed after 8 innings and come back to take the lead, which they did in the 9th. And then they go out and Edwin Diaz gives them 5 runs. The team is a train wreck right now. So my numbers clearly point to the Mets here because of DeGrom. Even at 135, it's like, well, if you're just looking at all the numbers put together, you look at the Mets. But there's no way to play them. And I think I'd have to go with the Braves at this price simply because of the fact the Mets are a train wreck right now and refuse to fire the manager. He's a dead man walking. Everybody knows it, except maybe Jason Vargas. And you just have to cut ties, and the Mets won't do it.
Yeah, it's strange. Brian, DeGrom faced Atlanta 10 games ago, pitched a gem, beat Atlanta 10-2. That game was an 8.5. I'm with Dave on this. You cannot bet the New York Mets here, and especially with that bullpen and that manager. We could see DeGrom go out and pitch an absolute, shutout to the 7th inning, and this team could still lose 5-3. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, I could see money coming in on the Mets, but I think all the value right now would have to be on the Braves. Soroka's faced the Mets once this year, gave up 3 runs, earned runs in 6 innings. DeGrom's faced Atlanta twice this year, both on the road, gave up 5 earned runs in 13 1/3 innings. So neither pitcher has been that effective against the opposition. But if you go back and look at game scores, both pitchers having great seasons. Question for Soroka: his last start out, he goes 2 innings against the Washington, is a 1 strikeout. Before that, 6 innings against the Mets, only 2 strikeouts. 5 against Pittsburgh, 3 strikeouts. I know he's not a major strikeout guy, but his strikeout to walk ratio is usually about 6-1. Well, actually, on the season it's 3-1, but it was 6-1. But now he's kind of fading a little bit lately. I was wondering if the mileage on him is a little bit higher. He only pitched 25 innings last year. He's up to 78 now. And that's one of the things you got to worry about is guys coming off of injury that didn't pitch very long last year. They may hit a wall. And I think some people may be looking into that. The value is on Atlanta, but I'm going to be sitting this one out.
Miami just got swept. They're hosting Philadelphia. Hernandez versus Velasquez. Phillies minus 138, 140 favorite. The over and under in this game is a straight 8 all across the board. It did open at 8.5. To me, it's like if I can bet against Miami at a small price, I'm going to take it. Velasquez versus Hernandez. Hernandez, has pitched better the last few games than Velasquez, but their numbers are very, very close. I see no reason not to back Philadelphia. They've just won 4 games in a row. Dave, why don't you try talk me out of that?
I'm not going to talk you out of it, but I'm not going to try and talk you out of Miami either. Although Hernandez is exceeding expectations, and it looks like he's developed as a pitcher. I've watched him a couple of times, and kid's got pretty good stuff. So the early scouting reports on him might have been a little bit off, and he might be better than people think. Or it might just be one of those stretches where he's pitching over his head. Velasquez is a really unpredictable pitcher. You can generally get a good handle fairly early in a game on which Velasquez is showing up. If he's throwing strikes, he's nasty because he's got good stuff. But if he does not have his command, he can get blown up and is a big inning candidate. And those guys really worry me. I can't come up with anything concrete on this. I think the pitching numbers do favor Miami, but everything else favors Philadelphia. And the market hasn't moved in a penny. So this it actually looks like a low volume game that most bettors are probably going to stay away from.
Brian, before we get to you, Dave, real quick, Miami just played a series against Philadelphia, and they swept them. They won 6-4, 5-2, and 2-1. Hernandez faced Velasquez in that game. It was 5-3 to Hernandez. Does that have any play in this? Philly being swept recently by Miami, and now, really playing great baseball.
Yeah. I don't put a lot into it. I mean, I tried working some stuff on that a few years ago, actually, where how does the better team, if they got swept, react the next time they play? And I didn't really find anything definitive. So I kind of ignore it. I'm sure Philadelphia was embarrassed by the fact they got swept by the Marlins, but the Marlins are also going to have confidence against the team they swept. So I kind of look at each game individually and don't put much stress on revenge. Not in baseball. In other sports I do, but not so much in baseball.
Dave, Phillies 4.5 games back on Atlanta in the NL East. Where are you going in this game? Brian, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to touch on what you mentioned with Dave. In baseball, you can't try harder. If you try harder when you're batting, I mean, any batter will tell you, you just can't swing harder. It hurts. It hurts your team. It hurts your process. So in football, sure, you can run a little harder. In basketball, you can run a little faster. In baseball, you can't try harder. So I think that's how we get a lot of advantages by playing baseball, is people will look at that and they'll say, hey, big revenge series here for Philadelphia. We might see some advantage on Miami. You mentioned these two going up against each other, and it was only 6 days ago. In that game, Velasquez had a terrific start, 66-game score, gave up 1 earned run in 5 innings, only gave up 1 hit in that game. Didn't walk anybody. In fact, he hasn't walked anybody his last 2 starts. Of course, they're only covered 7 1/3 innings, but that's always a concern for Velasquez on the walking side. Hernandez gave up 3 runs, 3 earned runs in 5 innings. So when teams see each other, like the next time out or whatever, I always like to revert back to the norm, which would mean that Hernandez would pitch a little bit better. Vasquez might struggle a little bit. So a slight value here on Miami for me, but not enough to make a bet.
Pittsburgh Pirates. Archer versus Chassin. Pittsburgh, the dog. Milwaukee minus 151 to 158 at Bovada. The over and under here is 10.5. This is a straight pass for me. I have nothing to add. Dave, what do you like in this game?
Look, there's a good chance they're going to get a lot of runs here. Chassin has been absolutely horrible for Milwaukee. He's a one-pitch guy. He's got a good slider. That's pretty much it for him, and he is really getting hammered.
Yeah, and Archer hasn't been that much better. I mean, look, he doesn't have Chassin's numbers the last 3 games, but, I mean, both of these guys' ERA north of 5.
Yeah, the metrics aren't any better. In fact, they're even worse on Chassin. Archer, I mean, well, his metrics are a little better, but there's only so much. You basically can't be worse than an 8.4 ERA on the road. He did pitch pretty good in his last start, but I don't put much into it. Pittsburgh could have a late inning advantage here. Brewers bullpen probably doesn't have Hader tonight. Maybe a mini opinion on the Pirates at the price. They're a hot team right now, and the Pirates have been streaky all season, and they're in one of their good streaks right now. Yes. So it's not the worst time to take a shot with them.
Yeah, they've won 6 of 7, including the last 2 games. Beauties against Houston, 10-0 and 14-2. I agree with you on the over. Brian, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, when it comes down to the bats right now, much hotter bats for Pittsburgh, 10, 14, and 11, 3 out of their last 4 games. Milwaukee has not hit well, which is one of the reasons why I think they brought Hero back up to play the infield for him. But two pitchers that you can't trust. And Chassin, the last couple of years, 3.5 ERA last year, 3.89 the year before. I've always thought he did it with smoke and mirrors. This year, he just doesn't have the same. The strikeout to walk ratio isn't the same. He's never been a big strikeout to walk guy, but Archer's one of those guys that gives you strikeouts. And if he gets lucky on the hits in the field, you got a chance to win. But he hasn't been a good pitcher for the last few years. And when he went to the National League, Pittsburgh's done so many good things to the pitchers there. Once he went there, I thought they'd be able to change Archer. And he's one of the pitchers that have gone there that has actually failed. And there's not too many of them because Pittsburgh's done a great job of starting pitching. I don't want any part of either one of them. The over makes sense to me. Pittsburgh makes sense to me. But I'll be sitting on the sideline.
What doesn't make sense to me, I think best pitcher in baseball, RYU. That's how you pronounce it, RYU. 12.5 is the total. This guy is so lights out. It is utterly ridiculous. He's got a whip in 99 innings of .8, an ERA of 1.27. His last 3 games have been just as good. He's 9-1 on the season. This is a performance for the ages right now if he can continue it all year. And yet we see a 12.5, and I know it's in Colorado, and I know yesterday's game went over the total. And Dave, you talked about Walker Buehler yesterday, how great he is. Yep. I think RYU is his equal, if not better at this moment. And yet we see such a massive total. You know, the Dodgers are the play here. I just don't like betting these -2 whatevers. What are you doing in this game?
Well, look, the totals, they're hammering the over in this game. Really hammering it. It's up to 12.5 now. This is open 11.5. And you saw what happened to Buehler last night.
Yep.
And Senzatello's no bargain, that's for sure. It's a tough ballpark, and the ball is just carrying like crazy there right now. To me, you look at the Dodgers. I mean, they absolutely own the Rockies. I've lost track of how many in a row they've beaten them, but it's a lot, including all the games this season. And this is one where
they won their last 10 against them. It's been complete domination.
And there's no reason I can see that it won't be 11. I like the Dodgers.
Bri?
Not going to lay that number on a road team. Something I don't normally do. The Dodgers 20-7 against Colorado. Ryu's been terrific, as you mentioned, just having a great season. But go back and look, and he hasn't played in Colorado since 2017. Look at his game scores, 24-14. He hasn't pitched well there. The good thing is when you go to Colorado, you don't want to walk people. And when you take a look at Ryu, his last 7 starts, 3 combined walks in 7 starts. This is a guy who doesn't walk people. So there's plenty of reasons to play him if you can throw out what he did in the past in Colorado. You would think he's learned his lesson, and he's a different pitcher now than he was before. He's always had a lot of injury problems. I could see being on the Dodgers, but I won't be on them. It's too much to lay in a game that is going to be one of those where I think there's going to be plenty of chances to bet in game. And if the Dodgers fall behind or something, and you can get them at a lot better number, because there's going to be a lot of runs, as we pointed out, with the high totals. So that's probably the way I'll look to play this.
Next game, Lauer versus Oaxaca. St. Louis against San Diego. San Diego's won 4 out of the last 5 games against St. Louis. We've got San Diego at a short favorite, -114. The over and under in this game is 9. Brian, I'll go to you first in this game. St. Louis lost 3 in a row. San Diego's won 2 in a row, but both of those games were against Baltimore, so take it with a grain of salt. What do you like here?
Don't know if I could trust either one of these pitchers here. Lauer is pitching a lot better, but he does throw in a clunker once in a while. He had an 18, but that was at Colorado. So other than that, he's been very good as of late, 72, 60, 64, 51, 64. He's on a nice run right now for Lauer, and I don't think much of him, but he is pitching really well. Problem is, he's faced St. Louis twice, both times last year, a 33 average on the game score. So he struggled with St. Louis. Walker's one of those guys that has pitched well against San Diego, but he's not having a good season. Looked pretty good last time out against the Angels, who I think is a really good offensive team. I always look to bet Angels team totals over, that kind of thing. I don't know if I can trust either one of these teams to put my money on, to be honest with you.
I like the over in this game, guys. I think it's pretty short at 8.5. I know San Diego is not lighting it up score-wise, and lately St. Louis isn't either. They got shut out by Oakland. They only put up a 3 in the game before that. But I think this is a short number for these pitchers. So I'm going on over the total in this game, and I'm actually going to be betting my own money on it.
The Cardinals, Walker's shown some improvement lately. Maybe he's figuring things out. 2 of his last 3 starts were good. The one in between was not good. But for the season, he's been pretty bad. Lauer would be the better of the 2 pitchers to me in terms of being reliable. I like the way this Padres team's playing. Their offense is cooking. I think you can make a case here for the Padres. It's not a cinch. I don't know if it's going to be on my card yet. I haven't made any plays yet today, but I'm looking at this one as a potential play on the Padres.
Arizona tonight on the road playing San Francisco. About 76% of the tickets so far have been written on Arizona. It's basically a pick'em game. San Fran minus 105 to 110. The over and under in this game is 7.5. Anderson versus Kelly. Both pitchers doing pretty good. Dave, I'll go to you first on this game. Where you going?
Nowhere. I got my Diamondbacks first 5 in last night. They did win the game. I guess it was 5-1 was the finals. They added some runs. Kelly's been okay for the most part. In fact, he's been quite good lately. Anderson is a decent rookie for the Giants. He's had some first inning issues, but if he can get through those, he's been pretty good, giving him 5-6 innings on a regular basis. Giants offense is really tough to trust. The market is playing the Giants a little bit. It opened Arizona 111, and it's now swung to, it's mostly 105, so it's basically pick 'em. It's just it's really tough to make a case for the Giants with that offense. It's just so bad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of pathetic to see guys like Buster Posey and Evan Longoria. These guys have been stars, and they are shells of what they used to be. By the way, they're talking about moving the fences in at San Francisco and getting rid of Triples Alley because they want to put the bullpens behind the ballpark. There have been some players who have gotten hurt with the bullpens on the field. So we'll see if they do that. It'll certainly help the Giants' offense if they do that. I think their hitters are kind of psyched out by their own ballpark because it is really a tough ballpark. And if you look at Longoria as an example, not like he's not anywhere close to where he was in Tampa, but he's hitting like 260 on the road this year. At home, he's hitting his weight, not even his weight. I think that ballpark as a whole is hurting the Giants right now from the standpoint of they're kind of messed up in the head at being unable to put anything on the board. It's not a team I want to back at home.
Yeah, and I like Arizona in this game, Bri. They've won 4 of their last 5, including 2-1 against the mighty LA Dodgers, and San Fran has lost 4 of their last 5. At a pick'em spot here with pitchers that are fairly even, I'm going to take the team that can, in relation to San Fran, the team that can hit. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm leaning that way too. One of the services I use, Base Winners Stats, they've got Kelly 11% below league average and Anderson 14% below league average. These two went off against each other just 5 days ago. Anderson had a 55 and Kelly had a 63. League average is 50. So both these guys had a good start last time out. I could see some regression here and possibly look at the over. But yeah, you're right. The San Francisco offense has just been terrible. And, Dave hit on a point, and it was similar to San Diego. San Diego for years was one of those teams that hit very well on the road and didn't hit very well at home. They made some adjustments to the ballpark. Now they hit a little bit better at home. That could be a situation to keep an eye on next year, it may make a major difference in totals when you're taking a look at the Giants game. So slightly into the over, slightly into Arizona. As with Dave, I haven't made any selections yet for my clients, haven't bet anything for myself yet. So don't know what will make my card, but this is one of the few that I have a little bit of interest in.
Guys, you're watching First Pitch. You can see us Monday to Friday at our YouTube channel, WagerTalk TV. Also, don't forget, Carmine Bianco and myself will be doing a soccer show. It'll be up at the same if you're watching this video, that show is up. Check it out. We're going to be talking the Copa. We're also going to be talking World Cup women's soccer. Dave, to me, just bet against Baltimore. That's it. Just bet against them.
Why not?
What more do you want? Should we even take this game apart?
The only thing you can say is that let's see if Clevenger can get through a game without getting hurt, which would be nice.
Does it matter? Dave,
look, I'm not arguing with you. One thing I will say is that their best chance to win is when Means is on the mound. He's coming off an injury, but he's ready to go. He's been by far their best pitcher.
Oh yeah,
so
6.64 on the season.
Concern. Yeah, that gives me pause for concern at $1.90. Other than that, I mean, they're 22-58, and they might not even be that good. So it'd be Cleveland or pass, but I will end up passing on this game because Means is the one guy that can hold the opposition down. And, if it's a low-scoring game, maybe the Orioles can sneak one out.
Yeah, Means is responsible for about 30% of their wins this season, and he's only got 6. Bry, I'm with Dave here. I just want to bet blindly against Baltimore all the way. But the Cleveland pitcher tonight, I am concerned about. It is a big number, and Baltimore has to win a few games every now and then.
Cleveland's 14-4 the last 3 seasons against Baltimore. Agree what you say about John Means. He's been their best pitcher. Bundy, after a terrible start, has been pretty good. I don't think he pitched well this week, but those are the only 2 guys that I would look to back for Baltimore. But there's a price for everything. And you talked about it wouldn't matter for Cleveland. Well, it does matter. If Clevenger's on the mound, they're a lot bigger favorite than if they went with a bullpen game. Problem is, I watched that game last week where Clevenger got hurt in the game, and it was amazing that he stayed in there. He's a tough guy. He just came off a DL. He didn't want to leave, but staying in that game, I think, hurt him a little bit, and they had to take him out. And now he's getting a chance to pitch again. But Clevenger's a terrific young pitcher. He's been the ace of this staff all season long for Cleveland. Problem is, coming off of that injury, don't know how long he's going to go. And when you're laying this type of number, I want that guy to be going 80, 90, 100 pitches. So this is probably a game that I'm going to sit out. If he's healthy and he pitches, I see no reason to go against Cleveland other than the line. But we don't know at this point. It may be one of those things where you watch the game. If he's healthy, then you can bet in game a little bit.
Toronto, Kansas City. They might as well just throw Baltimore in this and play a 3-way. Toronto coming home after 6 games on the road. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. I'm in Toronto. We're looking at historically low attendance, and rightfully so. This team's horrific. But surely they're going to at least win one against Kansas City. Is tonight the night, Dave?
Not with my money. I don't want any part of Sean Reed Foley, he's a minor league pitcher. Okay, he's not a big leaguer. Danny Duffy has trouble avoiding the one bad inning. Duffy will look great. If he's out there for 6 innings, he'll look terrific for 5 of the 6 innings. And then he'll make a mistake, and it gets hit out of the park. I just don't see much. I just don't see a whole lot here. My screen just went blank for a second. Let me get my numbers back up.
Don't worry, my mind's been blank for the last hour.
There we go. 119, 120. Maybe a bit short on the price, but do you want to lay 140? Or do you even want to lay 120 with the Blue Jays? It's a straight pass for me. I really can't make much of a case for either team.
Bry?
Blue Jays against lefties this year, 12-17. Not good.
That's actually really good.
But compared to the righties, 17 and 35, it is really good. Danny Duffy, as David pointed out, this is one of those guys that can come out and he could look like a world beater one game, and then another game he just runs into the one inning and it really hurts him. Not the strikeout to walk guy he was in 2017. He had like a 3 to 4 to 1 strikeout to walk. Right now he's lucky to be 2 to 1. Not the same stuff as he had in the past. Not excited to bet either one of these teams, so I'm going to be passing on this one.
Texas on the road playing Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay minus 130 in this game. The over and under is 8, pretty much across the board. Texas has won 5 games in a row, Dave, and Tampa Bay's been in a free fall. They've won 3 of their last 10 games. They did just beat Minnesota 5-2, but they lost that series. Lynn's on the mound against I need to get glasses, by the way. Next week, I'm going to start doing the show with glasses. I'm going with Yanni. Lynn against Yanni. Brian, I'll go to you first in this game. For me, I'm not touching it. What do you like?
Tampa Bay just coming off of a long road trip at the Yankees, at Oakland, at Minnesota, now coming back home. Most of the time I look to fade a team coming back home after a long road trip. We talked about this in basketball.
Yeah, basketball, it's a really great trend.
Yeah. Chirino's going for Tampa. This is a guy that, you pay a price when you're using some of the starters for Tampa. I think Chirinos has stayed under the radar. You take a look at his numbers last 2 years, 3.51 ERA last year, 3-run ERA this year. This is a guy that if you're looking to play Tampa and get him at a cheap number, this is a guy to do it. His last 7 starts, a 59 game score. He's been very consistent. Lance Lynn, another guy that's come off the heat this year a little bit. His ERA is a little high at 4.32, but last 7 starts, a 59 game score. This is a team that just come over after playing in Detroit. A little cheap number, I think, for Tampa here, and from my regard, but don't know if I'll get there. The money's come in on Texas a little bit. If it gets down a little bit more, I may be on Tampa, but at this point, undecided on this one.
Yeah, there was no question the money would come in on Texas here. Tampa did get a win they really needed yesterday because they've been struggling, but it took 2 full games to get the win. And you got to wonder, travel back home, nobody's going to be there, so there's not going to be much excitement. You got to wonder if they might be on fumes here. I'm not getting enough value here the way I see it with Texas, although that's the only side I'd play. But what I'm kind of looking at is that Tampa's hangover might come on Saturday more than here. There might be some adrenaline coming off the win that really helped them last night against Minnesota. But they're going to show some fatigue at some point this weekend coming out of a difficult road trip and that really long game. They're not hitting the baseball, by the way. I haven't even looked at who's pitching on Saturday, but I've kind of got that one circled as a spot where I think I might have an edge with the Rangers, and I'll get a better price than I'm getting tonight. I lean Texas tonight, but I have a feeling I might just might leave this one off and wait for Saturday.
Actually, the word is they're bringing out Brandon McKay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I won't be playing against him then.
Yeah, so that's going to be kind of exciting for the team. So
he's a real prospect.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. In fact, he's a hitter and a pitcher. So he's a guy that's played first base and pitched. So if there was a soft spot where they may not show, it may be today. And you hit it right on the point about nobody being there. I've been to that stadium, by far the worst stadium in Major League Baseball. I think they should just pick up the team and move to Montreal.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's going to work out really, really well.
It will work out.
Montreal's different than it was before.
Wait a minute. Montreal was the Expos were a very successful franchise until the strike.
Yeah, and they had an unbelievable baseball team.
And the fans never forgave him.
Yep.
And then on top of that, they had the worst owner in the history of sports, Jeffrey Loria, who decided to ruin the team and then got rewarded by getting another franchise from his buddy Bud Selig. Loria is the worst owner in the history of sports, bar none.
Yeah.
Can't stand the guy. He ruined that franchise. If you put another major league team in Montreal, you got a built-in rivalry with Toronto. It geographically fits with Boston, Baltimore, and the Yankees. It's a no-brainer. Baseball as a whole should pay off the lease in Tampa and just get them the hell out of there.
Okay, and let's do a show about that one day. No lines up for Seattle versus Houston or Mini versus the White Sox. Dave, before we get into Oakland and LA, do you want to talk about either of these two games or should we move on?
Tommy Malone will be the primary pitcher for Seattle. He'll follow whoever the opener is. And the Astros might take their frustrations out on this team. They've had a rough week and a rough stretch, and Seattle could be the perfect opponent with steady Wade Miley on the mound. Barrios is on the mound for the Twins. Not a bad spot for the Twins as they go into Chicago, but they're going to be a good-sized favorite. And they're off a very long game, so you don't know how that's going to impact them.
Brian, anything to say about these two games?
No, without knowing for sure who's pitching, I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Ramirez versus Fears. LA Angels versus Oakland. Brian, you already mentioned you like playing the LA Angels team over. Tonight they're minus 148 to 152 on the full game line. The over and under in this game is 10. LA playing much better ball. 2 games above 500 right now. Oakland, they've won 2 of their last 3. They've won 7 of their last 10. The Angels are on a roll themselves, 4 in a row. They just beat Oakland 8-3 in this game. What are you doing?
I talked about the Angels offense. I like the Angels offense. Mike Fiers has been one of those guys that he doesn't have great stuff, but he's a good pitcher. He reminds me a lot of CC Sabathia in his prime after he had lost his fastball a little bit. A guy who finds ways to win is an ugly way to do it. But, he's in just about every game he pitches. His last 7 games, a 56 game score. No Ramirez is going to be the starter for the Angels. Usually goes 1-2 innings a game. He actually has been pretty decent at 52 when he has done that. So it'll be a bullpen game for the Angels. The Angels are one of those teams that if you're looking at a future, because I like their young starters on this team, this could be a team that could sneak into the playoffs and make some noise. I haven't looked at the numbers, but from a future standpoint, this is a team I'm looking to buy on.
Yeah.
Slight lean here with the Angels. Don't know if it'll make my card.
Yeah, and they're only 3 or 4 games out of wild card contention right now.
Everybody's in it.
Yeah. Everybody except Baltimore, Detroit, Kansas City, and Toronto, and Seattle.
Right. Obviously, we know about those teams. But I'm saying now that Tampa's come back to the pack, it's wide open to me for both spots, for both wild cards. Tampa was being conceded one of the wild cards. Forget about that. They're only... Well, actually, they're 1 game ahead of Texas now in the wild card. Now, and the Red Sox loom. No, it's going to be a great second half. I agree with what Brian said on the Angels. I think they're a buy-on team right now. The negative for me here is the price. I'm not a big Pena guy. He's okay, but he will give up the long ball, and he's going to follow Ramirez in this matchup for probably about 4 innings. Fiers has been much better at home than on the road, which is not surprising. He's a fly ball pitcher. Oakland is a very good park for fly ball pitchers. Most road parks that he pitches in are not good parks for fly ball pitchers, including this one. The ball can carry there now. Carries better than it used to. And I think you might get some runs in this game. I would lean to the over.
He's Dave Cokin. I'm the Prez. Bryan Leonard with us. 1 more game to go. One of the hottest teams in baseball, Washington, won 8 of 10, playing Detroit, a complete and utter disaster. They've lost 7 games in a row. Washington is a short favorite here, guys. Minus 146 to 150, over and under 10.5. We spoke about this earlier, about, the Philly against Miami game. I don't know how you can't take Washington here, Brian.
Yeah, normally when you find a team that's hot against a team that's not, you find value on the dog. I can't bet the Tigers here. The last 10 games are averaging 2.8 runs a game. Have not played well. You take a look at what they've done at home. Last 5 games at home, their high score was 3. They're not hitting well at all. We do get an advantage here. Anibal Sanchez, he's probably, in most people's minds, the weak link of this Washington starting rotation. But the last 7 games started, he's got a 56-game score. Found a new pitch last year, was terrific. He's not what he was last year, but he's a serviceable pitcher. And if this was any one of the other Washington starters, we'd be looking at something closer to a 2-1 favorite here. So I think there's some value here on Washington. And to be honest with you, out of the games that we've discussed, this may be my favorite so far. I do like Washington here.
I'm with you 100%. Dave?
I can't disagree. I'm actually really surprised at the line movement. Sometimes the so-called sharp market does some weird stuff.
Well, they overthink, Dave. Yeah. I mean, and it's very common.
It's actually more. They're just betting numbers. Okay, that's what they do, and the numbers, I guess, are maybe a shade high. So they've taken some money on Detroit, and it's gone from 160 to 150. I'm actually seeing 147 at the South Point. 146 at Pitt. Not mine. If I had to bet the game, I'd be in the Nationals. They're playing really good ball. They finally made it back to 500, assuming they don't relax because they've gotten back to 500. That's a good thing. The Tigers are just awful. And they're going to get worse. They're going to get worse because they're going to trade Matt Boyd and they're going to trade Nick Castellanos. Those guys are going to be gone. So the Tigers, they have a chance to actually catch Baltimore as the worst team in baseball this year. The good news, as opposed to the Orioles, is the Tigers have some good young talent on the way, and the Orioles do not. But I would only play Washington here. The price be damned.
Guys, we got to go. Make sure everybody to listen to Carmine and my soccer show. We're just doing one every now and then. It's up at WagerTalk TV. Dave, enjoy working with Marco on Monday. Bri, thanks again, brother. Just outstanding stuff listening to you. I will organize a backdrop for you today. Be well, everyone. Take care of yourselves and have an absolutely outstanding weekend.
Take care, everyone.
Adios.